when they found that ancient Greek computer thing, what is that called?
The Antikythera mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that testifies to a lost navigational skill that we have not taken account of. Without a vast effort behind it, human beings were working on creating this geared and cogged machinery.
Can you buy one of those? It looks like you can buy that.
What happens when researchers stumble upon something that seems almost impossible? You get jaw-dropping discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. From a device capable of predicting eclipses to technology dating back to 132 AD that could detect earthquakes, join me in today's video as I uncover the astonishing ancient technology that's baffling scientists and rewriting history. 1. Antikythera mechanism. Back in the spring of 1900, a group of Greek sponge divers, led by the seasoned Captain Dimitrios Kontos, found themselves ducking a storm near the island of Antikythera. As they waited for clearer skies, little did they know they were about to make one of the most significant underwater discoveries in history. While biding his time, a diver named Elias Stadiatis dove into the depths and, at about 40-50 meters, 164 feet, bumped into what would be known as the Antikythera shipwreck, dating back to the 1st century BCE. Imagine their faces when they realize they have stumbled upon a treasure trove containing large statues, coins, jewelry, and more right there on the ocean floor. Once they grasped the enormity of their find, they quickly called in the big shots. The Greek Royal Navy didn't waste a moment, launching a recovery operation that spanned from November 1900 to 1902. Among the haul were marble statues that included life-size horses and a towering 7-foot-tall statue of Heracles, along with bronze objects and glassware that told tales of ancient luxury and artistry. But the crown jewel of the discovery was something that almost went unnoticed, a small, corroded bronze object. It wasn't until 1902 that archaeologist Valerios Stais spotted gears in the rubble and unearthed what is now known as the Antikythera mechanism. This ancient device, sophisticated beyond belief, was designed to predict astronomical phenomena like eclipses. Yet, this groundbreaking artifact was shelved until the 1950s, when Derek J. de Sola Price, a British scientist, took a closer look. His studies, followed by advanced imaging in the 1970s, revealed a complex gear system, highlighting the mechanism's role as an ancient analog computer. The story doesn't end there, though. With later expeditions led by none other than Jacques Cousteau in the 1970s, and even more recent 21st century surveys, each dive brought to light more artifacts and even human remains, deepening our understanding of ancient Greek technology, trade, and culture. Now, if you thought that was impressive, wait until you hear about another discovery that seemed almost too genius to be true. 2. Archimedes' death ray. Who doesn't love a good tale of ancient ingenuity? Take Archimedes, a name that resonates through history not just for his eureka moments, but also for his lesser-known venture into wartime technology. We're talking about the siege of Syracuse around 214–212 BCE, with the Roman fleets closing in, and Archimedes, that clever old mathematician, coming up with a fiery solution to keep the invaders at bay. Legend has it that Archimedes devised a death ray. The concept was simple, yet bold, using large mirrors, possibly fashioned from bronze or copper, to harness the sun's rays and focus them onto the Roman ships, setting them ablaze before they could even reach the shores.
Comes from the 3rd century BC, right from the mind of the famous scientist Archimedes.
Fast forward centuries later, and this tale still sparks curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. Was Archimedes' death ray a real piece of ancient tech magic, or just a product of exaggerated storytelling? Historians like Galen only stoked the fires of this legend centuries after the fact, leaving us with a story that's both tantalizing and a bit suspect. Curiosity about the feasibility of this ancient weapon has led to various experiments in modern times. In 1973, a Greek scientist named Ioannis Sakkas decided to put this theory to the test. He arranged 70 mirrors, angling them precisely to focus sunlight on a mock-up Roman ship. Lo and behold, the ship caught fire within seconds. Not to be outdone, in 2005, researchers from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, threw their hat in the ring. They ramped up the experiment by using 127 mirrors. Their efforts weren't in vain. They successfully ignited a small wooden ship, proving that, under ideal conditions, Archimedes' death ray might just have been possible. However, these experiments also revealed the limitations of such a weapon. For the death ray to work, the target ship needed to be stationary, the weather had to be perfect, and the alignment of the mirrors had to be spot on. These conditions are highly unlikely in a real battle scenario, suggesting that if Archimedes did use the mirrors, they might have been more for blinding or distracting the Romans rather than setting their ships on fire. So, as you marvel at the cunning of ancient minds, you might wonder what other incredible stories of ingenuity and invention are buried in the sands of time. What will we dig up next? 3. The Zhuge Nu. You might think the idea of a rapid-fire weapon belongs squarely in the modern era, but let me take you back to a time when ancient China was already ahead of the curve. We're talking about the Zhuge Nu, also known as the repeating crossbow, a marvel of military engineering that first made its appearance during the Warring States period, around 475 to 221 BCE. Named after the fabled strategist Zhuge Liang from the Three Kingdoms era, this weapon didn't actually spring from his mind. While he didn't invent it, he's often credited with tweaking its design and boosting its role on the battlefield. And let me tell you, it was quite the game changer for Chinese military tactics. The earliest versions of the Zhuge Nu were unearthed in graves from the state of Chu, with some artifacts dating back to the 4th century BCA. These finds, especially those from Hubei province, showcase the early attempts to create a mechanism that allowed continuous shooting. Unlike the typical crossbow, which demanded a reload after each use, the Zhuge Nu featured a clever lever system. This mechanism enabled warriors to unleash a volley of up to 10 bolts in just about 15 seconds. Imagine that during a siege, and it wasn't just about firing rapidly. The range of this ancient superweapon was around 70 meters or roughly 230 feet. The bolts, often light and sometimes tipped with poison, added a deadly touch to an already impressive piece of hardware. Fast forward to the 20th and 21st centuries, historians and engineers have been piecing together how the Zhuge Nu really worked. By reconstructing models based on historical texts and artifacts, researchers have been able to confirm its effectiveness, particularly for close-range skirmishes and ambush tactics. It's clear that the Zhuge Nu held significant strategic value in ancient warfare, providing a crucial advantage during sieges and when targeting foes without armor. As time marched on, the design of the Zhuge Nu continued to be refined, particularly during the Ming Dynasty. Innovations included larger magazines and improved triggers, keeping the weapon relevant even as newer technologies emerged. By the time of the Sino-Japanese War in the late 19th century, the crossbow was still in use, although it had begun to fall behind the rapidly advancing firearms. Isn't it fascinating how ancient innovations can be so ahead of their time? Just when you think you've heard it all, history surprises you with gems like the Zhuge Nu. Speaking of surprises, wait till you hear about another ancient weapon that changed the course of warfare. 4. Zhang Heng Seismoscope. Ever found yourself wondering just how ancient civilizations managed to pull off feats of science that seem way ahead of their time? Well, buckle up, because the story of Zhang Heng and his groundbreaking invention during the Eastern Han Dynasty is a perfect slice of history that'll leave you amazed. Back in 132 AD, Zhang Heng, a respected astronomer and scientist, really did something special. He introduced the world, or at least the Han Dynasty court, to one of the earliest known earthquake detection devices. Imagine presenting a giant bronze device that could actually detect earthquakes from hundreds of miles away. That's exactly what Zhang did with his seismoscope. Shaped like a large bronze urn, about 6 feet wide, the seismoscope featured 8 dragon heads arranged around its perimeter, each meticulously holding a bronze ball in its mouth. Directly below these fierce-looking dragons were bronze toads, mouths wide open, ready to catch the balls. The inner workings of this ancient seismoscope, though still somewhat of a mystery to modern historians, involved a cleverly designed free-swinging pendulum. When an earthquake occurred, the tremors would cause the pendulum to swing, triggering one of the dragon heads to release its ball. As the ball clattered into the waiting toad's mouth below, it signaled that an earthquake had happened and indicated the direction it came from. What's truly fascinating is how effective this device was. Not long after its creation, it reportedly detected an earthquake occurring about 1,000 miles away in Gansu, far from the capital of Luoyang. Messengers from the affected area confirmed this event a few days later, proving the seismoscope's accuracy and Zhang Heng's genius. The device was officially known as the Hufeng Daidong Yi, translating to instrument for measuring the winds and the movements of the earth. In a time and place when earthquakes were a common threat, Zhang's invention was revolutionary. Isn't it incredible how a single invention could stand the test of time and continue to inspire awe centuries later? Now, if you thought that was impressive, wait until you hear about the next extraordinary invention from ancient times. 5. Damascus steel. Here's a story not just about old-time craftsmanship, but also about a secret so profound that it nearly vanished into the mists of history. We're diving into the world of Damascus steel, a marvel of ancient technology that first made waves in the Middle East around 500 AD. Known for its eye-catching wavy patterns and unmatched strength, Damascus steel became the stuff of legends. The saga begins with Wootz steel, imported from India, which underwent a mysterious carburization process that imbued it with extraordinary properties. This wasn't just any steel, it was the brainchild of ancient blacksmiths who, though likely unaware of the intricate metallurgical principles at play, had honed their skills over generations to create something truly unique. Imagine holding a sword so sharp it could slice through falling silk, yet so resilient it could split stones and metal. That was the reality for warriors and rulers during the medieval period, who prized these blades for their superior toughness, flexibility, and edge retention. The legend of Damascus steel spread far and wide, particularly during the Crusades. European soldiers crossing into the Middle East found themselves face to face with the formidable edge of Damascus weaponry. Returning home, they spun tales of blades so advanced that they seemed almost magical. This only fueled the allure and mystique surrounding these iconic weapons. But as with all good things, the era of Damascus steel had to end. By the early 1800s, the exclusive knowledge of how to craft these remarkable blades had faded, becoming a lost art that left modern researchers and blacksmiths scrambling to unlock its secrets. It wasn't until the late 20th century that metallurgists like Verhoeven and Pendray began piecing together the puzzle. Through modern techniques and meticulous chemical analysis, they managed to recreate blades akin to the legendary Damascus steel, offering a glimpse into how ancient smiths might have manipulated elements like carbon, vanadium, and nickel to enhance the steel's striking properties. Today, Damascus steel's allure continues. Inspired by the past, modern artisans strive to emulate the original craftsmanship. What could be next in the chronicles of ancient technology making a comeback? Follow along to discover the next fascinating case. 6. The Phaistos disc. Who knew a simple clay disc could keep scholars scratching their heads for over a century? Well, meet the Phaistos disc, a mysterious artifact that turns up the intrigue to 11. Discovered by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier on July 3, 1908, during a dig at the Minoan Palace complex in Phaistos, this small 6-inch piece of clay might just be one of the most baffling puzzles out of ancient Crete. The disc, covered on both sides with intricate symbols stamped in a tight spiral, dates back to around 1700 BCE. What's captivating is its composition. 45 unique symbols appear 241 times across its surface, depicting everything from human figures to animals, plants, and tools. This advanced tech, possibly an early form of movable type printing, suggests that whoever made this disc wasn't just doodling, they had something important to document. Found tucked away in a hidden storage area, the Phaistos disc was clearly valued by its creators. But why? That's where the fun begins, because no one has cracked the code yet. Theories have run wild. Is it a ceremonial calendar, a hymn to a deity, or a ledger of astronomical events? Its design could hint at connections to lunar phases on one side and solar events on the other. Now, about the language, this disc could be a Rosetta Stone, or it might just be gibberish. Scholars have tried to link it to early Greek, Luwian, or Hittite scripts, but so far, no dice. The method of using pre-made stamps to impress symbols into the soft clay before firing shows a level of pre-planning and sophistication that implies this wasn't a one-off experiment. Perhaps there were other discs or similar tools. Sadly, none have surfaced yet. What adds to the Phaistos disc's allure is its singularity. No other objects bearing the same symbols have been found, and its message remains undeciphered, enveloping it in an aura of mystery. Without comparable artifacts or deciphered text, every new theory adds more layers to its legend. Just imagine what secrets are still waiting to be uncovered from the past. What other artifacts might be out there, holding keys to understanding our history? Well, number 7 will thrill you. 7. The Aeolipoli. You might think steam engines are a product of the Industrial Revolution, but let's rewind to ancient times when a clever inventor named Hero of Alexandria cooked up the first ever steam-powered device. Around the 1st century AD, long before factories and locomotives, there was the Aeolipoli, also dubbed Heron's engine. Not just a quirky piece of ancient tech, this device marks a pivotal moment in the history of technology. So, what exactly was the Aeolipoli? Imagine a metallic sphere perched on a stand, looking somewhat like a teapot ready for action, but with a twist. This sphere wasn't for brewing your morning tea. It was all about showcasing the power of steam. The sphere was rigged with 2 or more bent tubes, which stuck out like curious antennae. When the water inside the sphere was heated, it turned into steam and jetted out of these tubes. This blast of steam made the sphere spin. Pretty nifty, right? This spinning wasn't just for show. It demonstrated Newton's third law of motion long before Sir Isaac Newton himself did. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Hero of Alexandria, the brain behind this invention, documented the Aeolipoli in his work Pneumatica. He saw it as a scientific toy rather than a tool for labor, aiming to dazzle and educate about the principles of physics, possibly at temples or in educational setups. Fast forward to the Renaissance, and the Aeolipoli was truly inspiring. Its principles caught the eye of thinkers and tinkerers, setting the stage for the steam engines that would later revolutionize the world during the Industrial Revolution. Though Hero's initial design was never used for industrial purposes, it was a stepping stone that eventually led to the development of machinery and transportation powered by steam. Interestingly, by 1543, tales were told of a Spanish inventor, Blasco de Garay, who toyed with steam propulsion for ships. While his experiments didn't quite revolutionize transportation then, they underscored the ongoing fascination with steam power, which would come to fruition in the 17th and 18th centuries. 8. Baghdad Battery. Diving into the pages of history, we often stumble upon artifacts that are not just puzzling, but downright mind-boggling. Take the case of the Baghdad Battery, a discovery that has tickled the fancy of archaeologists and historians alike since its unearthing. In 1936, the intrepid German archaeologist Wilhelm König was poking around an excavation site near Kujut Rabu, just outside what is now Baghdad, when he stumbled upon a curious little clay jar. Measuring just about 14 centimeters in height, this was no ordinary jar. Inside, it housed a copper cylinder and an iron rod, all held together with an asphalt stopper. Now, when filled with an acidic solution, like vinegar or wine, this nifty contraption could generate a small electric charge, about 1.1 volts to be precise. König, scratching his head over this peculiar find, proposed that this ancient gadget could have been used for electroplating. That's the process where you coat one metal with another. Think gold on silver, a style that was all the rage back during the Parthian or Sasanian periods. That's around 150 BCE to 650 CE for those keeping track. König went public with his findings in 1938, suggesting that this little jar worked like a galvanic cell, similar to the batteries we use today. And yes, gold-plated silver objects were found right in the same area, lending some weight to his hypothesis. But not everyone was ready to jump on the battery bandwagon. Critics argued, pointing out the lack of concrete evidence, like ancient texts or records, to prove that folks back then were hip to electroplating. Fast forward to 1978, and enter Arne Eggebrecht, a German museum director with a penchant for experiments. He decided to give the Baghdad battery another whirl, this time using grape juice as the acidic medium. Lo and behold, the battery replica fizzed up and produced an electric charge. This wasn't just a one-hit wonder either. The famed TV show Mythbusters also took a crack at it, showing that when these batteries were hooked up in series and filled with an acidic solution, they could generate up to 4 volts. Despite these electrifying demonstrations, the Baghdad battery's true purpose remains a mystery. Some out-of-the-box theories suggest it might have been used in religious or magical rites, perhaps to give a tingling shock to worshippers touching statues. That being said, another intriguing discovery that seems too unusual to be ancient is the Wedge of Ayyud. 9. The Wedge of Ayyud. Stumbling upon something unusual during an excavation isn't new. Still, when the discovery turns out to have elements that shouldn't exist yet, it turns heads, and not just in the archaeology community. This takes us back to 1974, near the Mureș River in Romania, where a seemingly ordinary dig unearthed what's now known as the Wedge of Ayyud. Found buried a staggering 35 feet underground, and nestled alongside the fossilized bones of a mastodon, this artifact quickly became a subject of fascination and debate. For those keeping score, that mastodon hasn't roamed the Earth for at least 11,000 years, making the wedge's placement there quite the historical puzzle. Now, the wedge itself is no ordinary piece of metal. Shaped like a hammerhead, this artifact is made primarily from aluminum. The real shocker, though, is that aluminum wasn't widely produced until the 19th century. Yet, this object not only exists but is composed of 89% aluminum, with traces of copper, zinc, and silicon thrown into the mix. Tests conducted by the Archaeological Institute of Cluj-Napoca confirmed these details, further deepening the mystery. A layer of aluminum oxide coated the wedge, hinting that it had been battling the elements for hundreds of years. But remember, aluminum didn't make its grand debut until around 1825. You might think, so, what gives? Well, early theories about the wedge's purpose were straight out of a sci-fi script. Some suggested it could be a piece of ancient technology, maybe even part of an extraterrestrial spacecraft's landing gear. Imagine the buzz at the time, thinking aliens might have left behind a parking brake. However, not everyone's heads were in the stars. Mainstream archaeologists leaned toward a more down-to-earth explanation. They proposed that the wedge might have been a modern piece, perhaps a fragment of excavator machinery that got mixed up in the site during more recent digs. Even after being sent to Switzerland for further analysis, the Wedge of Ayyud keeps its secrets, refusing to reveal its true purpose or origins. And so, the debate continues, fueling discussions and documentaries alike. 10. The Ulfberht Sword. Here's a little slice of history that's as sharp as it is intriguing. The Ulfberht Sword. This remarkable blade, primarily found in Northern Europe, hails from the Viking Age, somewhere between the 9th and 11th centuries. This sword was so well crafted that it came with its own brand name, Puls Wall F. Slus, etched right onto the blade. Archaeologists have been scratching their heads over these inscriptions for years, and it's not hard to see why. What sets the Ulfberht swords apart isn't just their fancy labeling. These were not your average Viking cutlasses. The secret lies in the metal, high-carbon crucible steel. This wasn't merely any steel, but a lighter, stronger, and more durable type than the iron used in other contemporary swords. The carbon content in these blades was about 3 times higher than what you'd find in the typical Viking arsenal, giving their bearers a cutting-edge advantage in battle. The level of technology used to forge these swords was so advanced that Europe wouldn't see its like again until the Industrial Revolution centuries later. Now, you might be wondering how medieval blacksmiths, who should have been banging out simple iron swords, managed to craft weapons fit for a high-tech era. That's the million-dollar question. The forging techniques required were so sophisticated that many scholars think the Ulfberht might have originated from the Frankish Empire, what we now call parts of Germany and France, owing to the linguistic roots of the name. But these swords were more than just deadly tools of war. They were symbols of immense power and wealth. Only the most elite warriors could afford to carry an Ulfberht into battle. Many swords have been unearthed bearing the Ulfberht name, but with misspellings in the inscriptions, a clear sign that others wanted in on the prestige these blades conferred, even if it meant fudging the details. That wraps up today's video. So, what are your thoughts on this groundbreaking discovery? Which part of this ancient technology amazed you the most? share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more incredible finds like this.